smart contract wallets or account abstraction. So this is just the demo of what we did. I wanted to show it live, but I wasn't able to. So you guys are just gonna have to watch this. This is kind of like what the experience looks like on a Mac computer. So, you know, it's that tab that we're all familiar with. And you're basically logged in, and you can access your account abstraction wallet and Ethereum and all that nice stuff behind the scenes. So now, everybody loves Face/Touch ID. And it's not just Web3 folk that like Face/Touch ID. It's also Apple, Google, Microsoft. They're all shifting towards it. Passkeys is part of the WebAuthen standard, which is also Face/Touch ID. You know, Web2 is crazy about it as well. It's not just Web3. So let's walk through some of the steps that we had to take to make account abstraction or WebAuthen work with account abstraction. I actually meant to have this slide initially, but so the Face/Touch ID like API that you guys saw on the browser is actually a web browser API called WebAuthen. It's, the organization that pushes it out is the FIDO Alliance, and I'm not sure if you guys might be familiar with that, but like Apple, Google, you know, Microsoft, they're all part of the FIDO Alliance, and this is a standard that W3C is pushing out. Now, that's also the case with Passkeys. How this standard works is like this in this diagram over here. Let me just walk you guys through this over here. So there's a relying party or server. You can think of that as a dApp server. It's server side, a backend. Then there's the user's front end over here. And you have, this is in the browser's context. So you have the JavaScript side, and then you have the browser. And then finally, you have the authenticator. The authenticator most commonly is either your Mac's hardware secure enclave chip, or if you're using a phone, the same thing. It's the secure mobile enclave that's on your phone and chip. So what happens is WebAuthen, right, is really just an API that allows your a authenticating relying party server to access the authenticator via submitting a challenge, right, and getting that challenge signed by the key pair, which is held on your mobile secure enclave. Now, and then it goes back, and you can verify that the signature is correct, and yada, 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 you're done. So how do we throw this into a account abstraction implementation? Now, taking the same, so I just drew this out. So this is what the first implementation that somebody might typically implement, right? The relying party server, which is again maybe the wallet server or the wallet backend, sends a challenge. But this challenge, instead of it just being a random string or something of that sort, we instead submit on-chain verified intention. So assume we have a smart contract wallet that's already deployed, right? That's assigned to the hardware enclave. I'm skipping registration here. I'm just talking about pure signing. But we typically what we'd submit is a challenge. But what we can instead submit is saying, hey, smart contract, please send my USDC to Uniswap or something like that, or please stake or something like that. That's this on-chain verified intention, right? And we'll send this through all the way to the hardware enclave, and the hardware enclave will sign on that with its own public-private key pair and give the signed signature back to the railing party and server. We then, this signature though is not compatible with Ethereum. It's not in the SCCP256K1 curve. It's not compatible with ED25519 as well. So not compatible with some of the newer L1s or alternative L2s. Not compatible with StarkNet, not ZK Sync as well. So we can't use this in the raw. What we instead have to do is we have to wrap up there. We have to wrap this transaction so it's a valid Ethereum transaction. And then we then submit it, and we pay for it on that user's behalf, and we submit it to the user. on behalf of the user. Now, with this naive implementation, can anybody spot what is wrong with this implementation? Trusting the server? That is one thing, but it's not the critical thing that's the problem here. That is a problem, but it's not the critical thing that's the problem. It's about MEV. Does anybody know? Yes, sir? It is. That's it. It's a re-entrancy or replay attack. So in particular, right now, all we're signing over here is my intention to send USDC to Uniswap, right? So what that means is that object, this attested object that comes back, is actually representative of my intention. And I can just submit that. It can be a replay attack. Attackers can take that and submit that again and again and again. But secondly, it's really simply like a miner can front run me and choose to do it ahead of time before I do, right? So that's the naive implementation, but a proper implementation. So this doesn't work, indicated by the red X, as you can see. Now, so we need to secure against front-running or re-entrancy attacks. And how we do that is very simple. Just like how nonces are used in transactions today, we just add a nonce onto the smart contract wallet or the account abstraction layer. And then we also use this nonce over here. So that each transaction can only be signed once, and each transaction can only be used once, right? So this is a working implementation, and that's what we've done. And we'll have an SDK out for you all to try it out, down the line. Well, in particular, there are some drawbacks. This isn't this feels nice and seems cool, but what are some of the, limitations that we are facing today with Face/Touch ID? Why isn't it all over the world and used by everybody? So the first problem that we've encountered whilst testing this and implementing it and testing with some users is that the first thing is WebAuthen keys are device specific, right? So it lives on your phone or it lives on your laptop, meaning, just as how if you lose your laptop in the sea, your MetaMask key is lost and you have to go back and hunt your seed phrase. The same thing is true with WebAuthen. You lose your phone in the sea and you've lost your wallet, right? So yes, there's passkeys, and Apple, Microsoft are pushing out passkeys quite strongly in particular, but compatibility and what passkeys really are is they use either your Apple login or your Google login to copy the hardware enclave key and then share it around in some way or form, right? And there's some questions about whether that's truly self-custodial. And then there are also questions about and there are also issues just about compatibility, right? A lot of your mobile devices, especially Android, aren't compatible with passkeys today. Even in the Apple ecosystem, the older iPhones and all aren't as compatible today. So you're gonna face, if you try to use this in the mainstream flow, you're gonna face a lot of issues with device compatibility. Another disadvantage is there are extra costs for on-chain verification and signatures and transactions in general. That's true for smart contract wallets or account abstraction in general as well. But it is further exemplified with passkeys because you're actually verifying a signature, which is a very unique and weird key type. Often it's a very unique key type that's being verified here. And finally, this gentleman added previously that server-side risk is an issue, and that is true. So WebAuthen keys are also specific to the application or the relying party server. Meaning, if there are two different applications or two different wallets, the user actually has two different hardware enclave keys, which are kept on the mobile device. What this means if that relying party server of that backend goes down, you have the key on your phone, but there's no API to ever retrieve or ever sign or use that key. It's a huge risk, right? So those are some of the drawbacks here. What's next and what's interesting for us, though, there's a lot of things to be positive about. Passkeys will eventually be popular, and hopefully we get and reach that state. But before that, these are some interesting things that we are pursuing, at least at Web3 Auth. So can we get WebAuthen working a little bit better by hacking the authenticator level? So you know how Polygon is launching like the one phone, the nothing phone, sorry. Web3 Auth is working with Polygon and Polygon's ZK chains to in particular, try to implement on the authenticator level a more friendly version of Passkeys, and also make it a little bit more compatible with the browsers. The second thing is perhaps we can bypass WebAuthen altogether and not use that standard. Perhaps we can actually implement these signature verifications and these key type verifications that we get on today's hardware enclaves, like in the protocol level itself. So on chain, implementing the signature verification of like the curves which are supported by the hardware enclaves today. And we're also doing that with the Solana Foundation and the Solana Saga phone. Although I think not many people like Solana here, but they have a phone, and that's why we're working with them. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to take an opportunity to kind of shill a little bit more about us, and you guys can reach out to us to find out more about our passkey endeavor and our face/touch ID endeavor. Please feel free to reach out to any of one of these contacts over here. My Telegram isn't here, but like you can meet me afterwards. I'm going to take the last 5 minutes for Q&A, but before Q&A, I'm going to shill a little bit. I'm from Web3 Auth, and we do cool stuff like this. We also do lots of account abstraction stuff as well as MPC stuff, and we like to marry both worlds. We provide wallet infrastructure for some of the top wallets in the space today. And if you guys are looking for things like really accessible wallets or to build a wallet, please hit us up. Thank you. Any questions? Questions? Q&A? Yes, sir. So the question was, what are we known for account abstraction today? I think, in particular, we aren't one of the 4337 evangelists. We've done several implementations on different chains, in particular to kind of like estimate gas costs and usability. User acquisition costs of 4337 are still a little bit high, as I'm sure you're aware. $25 on mainnet, it's ridiculous. Even on StarkNet, it's like 50 cents in particular per user, right? So, I mean, Web3 Auth also, we work with a lot of account abstraction SDKs. So we announced, I'm not sure if you guys heard of Safe's new SDK announcement, Safe Core. Web3 Auth is bundled in that SDK. We also power Biometric, which is one of the leading account abstraction SDKs. Use KeepP, 0xPass. You know, there are only 7 out there, and like 5 of them are integrated with Web3 Auth. Yeah, please. Unless anybody else has a question. Yeah, please go ahead, dude. So we are exploring, and we are also working with partners. Yes, sir. Unless you want to go first, you're in the queue.
Yeah. My question was about the whether 4337 helps with step 6 on that diagram.
It does, in that it standardizes a gasless alternative, but at the same time, you also don't have to use that standard. And a lot of them, like for example, Gelato Network and Biometric, they just ignore it in particular. Oh, I see, on the account abstraction level. I would need to dig further into that in particular. I'm not super familiar with the exact EIP you're talking about. You, sir.
You briefly mentioned MPCs. How is it integrated today or in the future?
So the question was MPC and how is it integrated with our infrastructure. In particular, Web3 auths, like, every account abstraction or every smart contract wallet needs an EOA in particular, right? Web3 auth EOA is via MPC. What we do is basically split a user's public-private key pair up into multiple different parts and then secure it with factors that they already own. So these include like their phone, their devices, but also includes like their emails, social logins, and whatnot. So we combine these multiple factors into a two-factor wallet or multi-factor wallet powered by MPC. Are there any other questions? We have about like a couple of minutes left. All right, okay. Thank you guys.